is the Folksy Friend, and on this channel I talk about stories, in particular folk beliefs, tales, and mythologies. Today we are talking about Greek mythology. These are the stories of Narcissus and Echo, to whom we owe our words for narcissism, the narcissus flower, and of course, the word echo. Before we start, here are the trigger warnings for this story. We begin with Narcissus, as he would undoubtedly prefer. Narcissus was a deer hunter who grew up to be one of the most beautiful people in the world. He was on the same level as, say, Adonis. He was constantly pursued and propositioned. Everybody wanted a piece of him, but he rejected them all. In fact, it happened so much that he became cold and frankly cruel in the way he started to reject people. When a young man named Amanius pursued him, Narcissus cruelly rejected him by sending him a sword, with the implication that if Amanius could not handle the rejection, then the sword was his solution. And Amanius used it to end his life on Narcissus's doorstep. Before he died, he called upon Nemesis for revenge. Now on to Echo. Echo was a mountain nymph who happened to be a bit of a chatterbox. She just loved to talk. One day, Zeus decided to use this chatty quality of hers to distract Hera while he went to have one of his many affairs. We don't know for sure if Echo was in on it, distracting Hera, or if Zeus was just using her. Either way, Hera came down looking for Zeus. Echo started talking to her, distracted her, and after a while, Hera realized what was happening. As punishment, Hera cursed Echo to only be able to communicate using the last few words that were spoken to her. Sad and alone, finding it very difficult to communicate with anyone, Echo began wandering around the mountains, until one day she just so happened to see Narcissus out on a deer hunt, and it was love at first sight. Because in a lot of Greek mythology, pretty face equals instant, undying, all-encompassing devotion. Because she couldn't start a conversation, Echo did the only reasonable thing. She stalked him around the mountain. In time, Narcissus realized he was being followed and called out for his follower to make themselves known. Echo comes out of the bushes and confuses the heck out of him by repeating his last words back to him. After an inevitable moment of miscommunication, Echo lunges forward to try to hug Narcissus, which freaks him out, and he pushes her away, then rejects her pretty cruelly. This rejection breaks Echo's heart. After all, at this point, she had been stalking him for several hours. She just could not see life for herself without this beautiful man. So most versions of the story, at this point, she finds a lonely cave somewhere in the mountain, and she just fades away until the only thing that is left of her is her voice, which continues to repeat back to us the last words that we say. Narcissus, on the other hand, completely unfazed by this most recent admirer, continues on his merry way. At this point, however, the gods get involved, either because the nymphs are angry at his treatment of Echo, because Nemesis finally caught up with him over Amanius, or just because so many people prayed complaints to the gods. Narcissus was cursed. The next time he stooped to drink, Narcissus fell in love with his reflection. His love is utterly obsessive. Even ripples in the water that slightly distort the image cause him to panic. Nothing can get him away from the reflection. There are two versions of how Narcissus meets his end. In the bloodier version, he becomes so distraught over the unconditional, unreciprocated love of his own reflection that he ends his own life. In the other, he simply wastes away, not leaving his own reflection to get food or even wanting to break the surface of the water to drink. His body slowly withers and becomes the Narcissus flower. In the versions of the story where Echo is still alive at this point, the sight of seeing her most cherished man she spoke to for 3 minutes fade away in front of her causes her to fade away. And that's where her voice becomes the echo that we hear in large spaces. And that is the end of the sad story of Narcissus and Echo. Again, as with most Greek mythology, I'm not sure I can say I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was interesting. I'm curious as to what you think about Narcissus. I think that as a modern audience, we probably receive him a little differently than they did in the past. It doesn't seem like any of the attention he got, he actually wanted. So, I don't know. Tell me what you think. The sword was still too far, though.